What is going on, everybody? This is going to be 10 things that I think Lumion could implement that would really improve the software. I don't want to get into some things like real time. So yeah, for this video, I don't want to get into things like real time ray tracing because to me, that's not like a small feature. That's like a fairly big engine kind of overhaul. So to me, that seems like it's almost too easy. It's like, something Lumion can implement is like make the renders take half the time. I feel like that's just, it's a little easy to say stuff like that. So I'm not going to be getting into that. There are things that I think that are features that Lumion almost has or could easily have. Stuff that I think that, hopefully it's something that they could implement fairly quickly because the basis or like kind of the groundwork for that effect is already in Lumion. So let me know what you guys think of the video. But here are 10 things that I think should be added into Lumion. So this is probably the most simple one that could be added into Lumion. As some of you know, I like to use HDRIs in Lumion. Now, obviously, you can't bring in the actual lighting of an HDRI, but you can bring in just a modeled sphere. I don't totally understand why Lumion couldn't just have one of these ready for you. Because a quick example, now, mind you, this is bugged what I'm about to show you. But nonetheless, like if you take a flag and you bring this up, oh, I didn't mean to bring it up that high. Normally you can actually change the flag. Like you can go like color map, change it, and then this should be on the flag. It's been bugged since 10.5, I think. Maybe it's been just Lumion 11, but regardless, you can't do it right now with the newer versions. But you could easily have something like that with an HDRI sphere where it's just a blank gray sphere. Like if I just find this quickly, HDRI. So sometimes I'll use this. So if I bring this up, I'll just scale this up a little bit. Then yeah, what you basically can see, I'll change the texture so you can actually look at this a little bit better. I'll get rid of that. Gloss, reflection, emissiveness. Okay, so we get in here. Basically, you spin around and you have like a nice background. It's really easy to use. And yeah, I think that Lumion could easily implement this. It would at least just make it so that most people that don't completely understand like HDRIs and things like that, like, from other programs, like if they have trouble with this, it's just an easy way for them to do it. I feel like a lot of people would kind of stop complaining that they can't bring HDRIs in with this because in reality, Real Skies is everything that you need to do this with the lighting. At least it's just the background image you can't change. So yeah, I think that'd be a really, really cool thing for them to add, and it would take less than an afternoon, in my opinion. So maybe I'm completely wrong on this one. But to me, it seems like people are kind of importing stuff into Lumion more and more. Like, in my opinion, when Lumion first came out, having its huge library, I think was more of an advantage than it is now, just because I think that there's like more and more people are getting into actually making models and like, even using things like Blender to not only model their own, but just to kind of set up the scene. Like this is what I do, at least. Like I set the scene up in Blender and bring it in. I don't really use that much Lumion furniture at all because I have a pretty big library for it. And I know that not everyone like has that, but like in my opinion, it just like it just there needs to be a better functionality for importing stuff in. So normally what I'll do is I'll set everything up in Blender and then I'll bring it in, which is fine because it's just one FBX file that I'm basically importing. But there's a lot of people that don't really do like that kind of workflow where they'll just kind of make something in SketchUp, just like the walls and everything, and then they will bring in furniture in Lumion, or they're going to import it. Now, the problem is that if you have to import like let's say 20 pieces of furniture, you have to do that individually, and it gets even crazier if you start to talk about stuff like you want to use Quixel Megascans. And you have like there's like 200 different kinds of plants that you want to bring in for the scene. You'd have to do that all individually. And I think that there needs to be a way that you can just kind of go like import, like batch import, and then it's like everything in this file gets converted at once. I really hope that's something that they do because I think it would just make it so much easier not only to organize your own assets inside of Lumion, but I think it would just make people want to use, even just Megascans and stuff. Because right now it's like, it's pretty messy. and you have to do everything one by one. I think that is kind of outdated. I think that they really need to look into having some kind of batch import. So the next thing I think that Lumion could add that would help out a lot is the ability to paint 3D grass, or even just the ability to have, you know, flowers and things added into your 3D grass. If we pull up the landscape grass here, landscape grass, turn this on, we'll zoom in, and let me just make this bigger here. So yeah, you know, you can kind of do this, but there are certain things that you can do. Like you have the ability to kind of paint this stuff on. Like I can change the landscape. I don't use yeah, okay, there we go. Sorry, I don't use like the landscaping at all. But as you can see, so I have the ability to kind of change this. So it'd be nice if you could just turn off this grass, and then you'll be able to kind of paint 3D grass on your landscape like that, because it would allow Lumion to kind of use its own landscaping tools more. Like, in my opinion, you can't really do much with the landscape. Like, yeah, you can do all this like height map and stuff like that, but like maybe I'm wrong with this. I feel like people aren't using the landscape like at all for their scenes, because you can't put 3D grass on it. You have to import your own from like SketchUp. So at that point, why not just use like, you know, the SketchUp model? Even for backgrounds like mountains and stuff, I don't use Lumion. I'll use a photo scan mountain from like Sketchfab or something like that, because I find it looks a little more realistic and it's just easier to kind of deal with. But even the ability to paint, like I said, 3D grass onto the landscape and then add flowers as like a mix into the 3D grass, I think that would be a huge change. And I think that it would actually get people to use the Lumion landscape kind of how it's intended to. So yeah, that would be really cool if that could be added in. I don't completely understand, I guess, how like Lumion's lights work, I guess behind the scenes. Um, because like I guess I'm probably missing something as to why this isn't implemented. But basically I thought it was kind of weird that like Lumion spotlights can only be like a perfect circle. So it'd be kind of cool if you could have like this effect. Like I'll just throw some random walls in just so that you can kind of see like what I'm talking about. So if I just kind of put this like here and here. Let me just move this just so it's in a bit of a better spot. So I think if you go like this, yeah. And then if I just sample the like the shadows by holding F8, you can see that like you kind of get this effect. So it'd be kind of cool if you could just take these cones and then tell it like, you know, you don't want like some of the sides to show, like changing, I guess, like the tolerance, I think it's called. But yeah, I guess I don't completely understand why you can't do that as is, because that to me seems like that kind of fixes the area light problem that you could throw, you know, like underneath like kitchen cabinets and stuff like that, like, or wherever you just need to have some where you just need more detail. Because as you can see, if you do this, then like it will cast a shadow. So yeah, there's probably more kind of behind the scenes why you can't do that, because I said the same kind of thing for doing like Omni lights. So if we kind of take this down here, like I think that like the Lumion spotlights can only go to like this cone. But what I don't really get is that you can do this with them. So if it can spin upside down, you know, I would think that there's like some Omni light that you could, like there's like some kind of light that you could put in that goes out in all directions, so you could actually have like a um an actual fill light that casts shadows. You know, maybe it's just too heavy for the system to handle, but that is something that I think would be very nice if it was added, just to have that effect. But yeah, that's just a kind of a note, I guess. Um, this was an example that I want to show from a project that we had just done. Unfortunately, I can't actually show you the project files, but I can kind of show you what we did. So we had to fill a supermarket just full of like food quickly. But obviously, you don't want to spend a lot of time kind of going through and doing that. But you do want to have something inside of the grocery store, just so that it doesn't look empty. And what we did is we actually found on the internet like this node setup. And so if you don't know Blender, it might look like it's really complicated, but basically all this does is that there were 4 different textures. And then every time we spawn a new object, it has a random chance of just getting one of these 4 textures. So if I just kind of duplicate this around, as you can see, you can see that like all of the like it just has a random chance of being that like this texture. So if you duplicate this, go like that, and you can see it kind of goes around like this. I feel like Lumion could actually implement something like this very easily. So basically take it so that like this, let me just see what the examples are here. I think something like, yeah, so I'll just do those three, I guess, as an example. So you take this, and all these are variations inside of Lumion. And then when you duplicate an object, it has a random chance of being one of these three textures. And so I guess that would let you go up to 10, but it's just the kind of thing that like, if you need it to be random, some kind of texture, like, you know, whether it's like tiles on the floor or something, all you have to do is duplicate it, and then you don't have to mess around with it. Like the variations are set up to just kind of be random as you need them. Because I don't think there's any way of doing this in Lumion right now, because it will just duplicate that exact object. But if there was some way to have like a smart texture, I think that'd be a really, really cool addition, and it would speed up a lot of workflows. So yeah. This is one that I, again, like I don't completely understand kind of behind the scenes. But I think it'd be really cool if there was some way that you'd be able to import FBX files that have the ability to kind of move like this. Because if we look like at these people, like there's obviously movement in here that you can't normally import, which kind of, I guess it just makes me kind of question it, because this is one thing that I would think that Lumion really wants to get in there, because I've seen people kind of comment on the forums asking like, can they get this person, like all that. Like I think people would be willing to pay a good amount of money to have more people in the scene, because you always see architects using these like cutouts that they Photoshop in, and it's extremely rare to me that those actually look good. Like to me, like if it comes down between having no people in the scene and having those cutouts, I'd probably just choose no people. But that's where Lumion comes in, because you get these pretty nice these pretty nice models, especially from I think AXYZ. So they're the ones that have the 4D people, which in my opinion is the future of the industry. Like it's incredible what you can do with those. We'll definitely be buying some for Unreal Engine when we kind of get rolling with that a little bit more. But hopefully there's a way that Lumion's able to import this as well, because to be able to have 4D people inside of your Lumion scene, I think that that would really take it to the next level, and would also give people more control over variations, like when it comes to things like walking upstairs or even like getting into cars and stuff like that. And yeah, I think that just being able to import models would be a huge addition. And the reason why I included this is because, like, you know, clearly it is possible for the engine to do it. Like, I don't know what you'd have to do, but these people are obviously in the scene and they're moving around. So, yeah, the engine is capable of running it. I just don't know what you'd have to do to make it so that we would be able to import, I guess, like bone animations or just like something. But yeah, I've never completely understood why you can't just take a gloss map directly into Lumion. The reason being is because Lumion is fully capable of using gloss map, sorry, by bringing in a gloss mask. By that I mean you can actually put it inside the alpha channel of a normal map, and then you are able to affect Lumion in different ways. Like this will give you more control over it. So I don't completely understand why you can't just bring it in, because I think that a lot of people either get confused or they don't even know that you can do this. But let me just show you a quick example. So if we take this, if we bring the gloss up and down, as you can see, everything is changing. Like the entire texture is going to change, because this gloss slider will affect the entire texture uniformly. So let's see what happens when we bring this in. Now, as I mentioned, I have gone and exported this. So what you do is you just make sure that the mode is set to RGB color, 8 bits a channel, and that will let you save as like a target. That's the one I normally use. You could do .dds as well, but I think that Lumion just converts it all to .dds now anyway, so it's no big deal. But yeah, so let's just pop this in. And as you can see, now the area that I wrote subscribe is like there's no gloss on it. So like I can change this, but as you can see, it's actually interacting differently. So the higher up this goes, I believe, yeah. So if you go all the way up, it becomes glossy anyways. But if you bring it down, as you can see, like it'll get affected in different ways. Like when it's at 1, this is kind of a weird one with the normal map, how it works. So when glossiness is at 0, obviously everything is 0. But up until 1, it's only the normal map that becomes glossy. But then after that, it becomes the color map and the gloss mask, I think, as you can see kind of happen with that. I don't know if that's exactly how it works, but yeah, as you can see, by using the gloss mask, you can get way more control over your scene. Especially for things like if you have like a swamp. Like I think in the very first video I made, I actually showed that example. So hopefully in the future they'll let you put in gloss mask maps, because it just like it's so important to Lumion, I think, to get that extra bit of control that I just don't really see why you can't just put it straight in, as since like you can do all that stuff with Photoshop. It just makes people take an extra step. So this is another thing that I actually mentioned them in feedback. So Lumion did a huge update on this, in my opinion, where like you know, the satellite maps, fantastic to have, but I actually think that they could take it a step further, because if they could somehow write like a script or a code or something that could take these white blocks, check the volume, and then place a Lumion house on top of it, or just even a building, you could have this really like expansive, almost like city look to it, and you get much more context, even if it doesn't match the actual building or even come close. I think that it just looks better if you have like actual buildings as opposed to just the white blocks. Because yeah, like I really like what they did with the satellite map. Like I think that that is probably one of the coolest features that they added in Lumion 11. And I can see a lot of use in it, just for kind of getting like a context. Um, let me just kind of show you what I mean though. So let's take this building. It's like an apartment block. So I think I put myself in a bad area of Halifax to show this. But let's just say it's like here. So that's way too big. Put this house, for example. So kind of take it. We just rotate it so it's like this. Maybe go up like that. And then we just sort of move it so it's here. Example. Like, yeah, and just make it so that like it's just random. So it's like it doesn't have to be perfect, but I feel like having, you know, all of the like having all that color in there, just like bang, like set it all up. It'd be really cool. And yeah, like I think that people would be pretty forgiving if it wasn't perfect. Because I think that a lot of people are kind of turned off by these white blocks. Like I'd rather have a bunch of these buildings that don't look anything like what's actually there than just those white buildings like that. So yeah, that I think that'd be a pretty cool feature they get added. So something I kind of learned from using Blender with like Graswald for grass and stuff like that, Lumion's 3D grass actually has a lot of functionality that makes it very nice to use. Like some programs, like it's not that simple to kind of get this like straight edge of grass kind of along the side there. And it's really awesome they do that. What I find strange is that there's no tool to say like, so obviously you can do like this nature. Let me just show you, because this is probably the best way to describe it. Let me just get a tree. So I can place like one like that, you know, whatever. Or I could do mass placement. You know, you can paint it on, do all this stuff. But I just want to click a face and then say on this face, or like this material ID, I want 10 trees randomly placed. It seems like even with the randomized position, like it seems like Lumion has a little like a bunch of these little tools that would kind of make up this feature, but you can't actually do that. And that would be so much easier if you had this like preset forest or something like that, where it dropped like sticks, stumps, rocks, trees, all this stuff that's kind of like cohesive, and then it just filled an area. So it's like if you had like a background, you basically put like, you know, almost just like a shape behind the house, and you drop that in and bang, you have your background done. You can kind of do this, but I just feel like there's a way that you should have your presets. You click it, and then like 10 nature objects just fill it. Like you say you want it like 90% dense, 100%, 110% dense, whatever it is. This is something that I did actually put in as feedback. I think that should be in, because I think that there's a lot of time that kind of gets wasted just with how the placement tools are. Being able to just click or like make a material ID and then fill an entire area with that, I think that that is something that could really speed up a lot of workflows in Lumion. So this is the one that I think is like the number one feature they could add into Lumion that would make it so that the realism would go, in my opinion, through the roof. Like it would be so much better than kind of how it's set up now. And that would be having almost like geometry nodes to create like hardwood floors, siding, things like that. And I don't mean actually having the nose. What I mean is the ability to just click on a floor and then say, you know, this needs to be hardwood floor. And then Lumion will actually generate the top, like the planks for you that you can adjust, and it will unwrap it and you can upload your custom image. And you might be like, okay, well, that seems kind of complicated, but it kind of isn't, because 3D grass is more or less doing this. Like if I click on this and I say I want 3D grass, so the difference between this and the other thing is like these are actual models of grass. So that these are like this isn't a texture. And everything is kind of cut out, and you know, I can come in here and I can change the color, I can change the size, the length, everything like that, bending force. So I don't really see why you couldn't do this with, like I said, anything like siding, because that's something that people use a ton, but there's not really that much in Lumion. Hardwood floor is probably the biggest one. Whether you want to be like herringbone, just planks, like you'd have the ability to kind of flip all this stuff on, and then you just import a texture or use a Lumion one that's like preset up, and everything is unwrapped in a way that like once you click it, you put a seamless wood texture in, and then it will take some of the planks, bend them certain ways, rotate them, like whatever has to be done just to make it seem like it's random. Yeah, this to me is something that Lumion I think could implement fairly easily. I don't know how much like behind the scenes stuff would have to be done, but this is something I think would really help out, because as you guys have seen in like some of my past tutorials, you can get a lot more realism if you're actually willing to go and model the stuff. But even with the kind of like the hardwood floor starter pack that I made in the 3D warehouse, it still takes a pretty long time to kind of get that to where it needs to be. Whereas like if you could just come into Lumion, hit the hardwood floor button, and it's good to go, I think that would be a really it'd be a winner. And in my opinion, that's why this gets number one on the list. They didn't necessarily go from like best to worst idea, but this was the best idea in my opinion, which is why I saved it for last. So hopefully this is a video that you guys enjoyed. I actually have at least one honorable mention. I feel like there was a second one I can't remember. I actually had put in feedback a while ago about removing the video cap in Lumion, and they actually did it with Lumion 11. So that was something that I feel like I was the only one that really noticed, because I was the only one that cared. But I think that there's a huge advantage to doing this. And Chris Welton and me actually had a conversation not too long ago where he showed me a trick that hopefully he'll show you guys. I'm not sure if he has a plan to make a video about it though, but I don't think that what he did would have been possible if they hadn't removed the video cap. Before it was stuck at 50 megabytes, which is like barely enough to even have like an animation on a TV. So yeah, now that's gone. That's just because I put in the feedback. So if there is something that you want to see change in Lumion, I highly recommend that you go on to the Lumion forum, put in some feedback, because it really doesn't fall on deaf ears. They are reading it, obviously. And so, yeah, if if there's something that frustrates you about Lumion, or you have a great new idea, definitely go and just use the feedback tool. I will leave a link below the video if you have a cool idea to show them. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to just to read it, maybe contact you about it. That is fairly rare though. I will just say that, like, typically they'll read it and just kind of like they'll just kind of think about it. But I think there was one thing that they'll just reach out to you sometimes to clarify, so that they just know exactly what you're talking about. So yeah, hopefully you found this video interesting. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button, and maybe also the subscribe button to help me with the YouTube algorithm. If you already subscribed, thank you very much for supporting the channel. It's been a ton of fun making videos over the last 6 months, and hopefully I have many more videos to come. Have a great night.